Hi, everybody.
Hi.
I'm Sarah from Work Wisdom.
I'm Kedron.
So we're doing an episode today called Hey, Work Wisdom. There's some questions from our Instagram followers that we're going to address today. And so, Kedron, are you ready? We have 4 questions.
Here we go.
Okay. All right. So the very first question is a really interesting one. Oh, let me find it here. Okay, here it is. Hey, Work Wisdom, is toxic positivity a thing?
It is. It's a thing. Thanks for the question. It's really an important question right now. So toxic positivity is when we tamp down our negative emotions, and we only want to highlight the positive ones. So we can do this for ourselves, where we're repressing our own negative feelings, or we can actually do it for others too, where we're saying to people, look on the bright side. It's only been 8 months of COVID, and so it doesn't really help people feel validated. And for yourself, it doesn't allow you to affirm your own feelings. So this is a problem in a lot of ways. At the individual level, I think it's a problem because our negative emotions are so important. We can't grow without those negative emotions. So there are teachers, as Sarah always likes to say, we want to invite them in for tea. Be curious about them, understand what is it that we need to learn from them. So that's toxic positivity for the individual. So we never want to, we need you in there. We never want to dismiss or repress those negative emotions because they're a gold mine. So, and also in a culture, when we think about the negative emotions that come up, typically that's where our growing edges are. And when we think about any important movement over the last couple of years, whether it's Black Lives Matter or the Me Too movement, it really does require looking at what's negative. Maybe it requires us to get past our fear or our anger, and own, maybe our shame as well. But if we don't bring it up, get curious, understand it, examine it, we're never going to grow as a culture, as a team, as a society, as an individual. So that's toxic positivity 101. Was there anything else in that you would want our listener, our Instagram follower to know about?
It sounds like it's positive to experience your negative emotions. That's what it sounds like you're saying.
Yes. So, of course, we're positive organizational behaviorists. So, the fact that we've never been accused of toxic positivity is surprising because we are such fans of positivity. It's where we have our best ideas. It's where we have our greatest engagement. It's where we have highest performance. But we can't really get there without the negative.
That's
so,
right.
Yeah.
Don't repress.
Don't repress.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so thank you for that question. I'm going to move on to the next one. Are you ready for this one?
Yeah, bring it.
Hey, Work Wisdom. What does one do if they're in their mid-40s and realize there's a widening gap between what they feel connected to doing and what they're actually doing? Asking for a friend.
Asking for a friend. I love it. Well, I would say congratulations to this person's friend, because it sounds like they know what they feel connected to do.
Yeah.
That they have done that discernment, and they know their purpose on the planet. So first of all, take some time to celebrate that, because so many people don't even know what they're called to do. I think secondly, so many of us think it's like this dichotomy that, I have to go all in with this calling or this thing that I feel connected to doing. But what about incrementalism? This is, it's okay to be sort of slow and test the waters and do some volunteer work and maybe get a weekend part-time gig experimenting with that other work that you feel connected to, and test it out. So, you don't have to go all in. If you do go all in, I would say embracing voluntary simplicity. So knowing that there might be a couple of years where you drive no car, or maybe a car without air conditioning.
We don't know anything.
Yeah, we don't know anything about that. But sometimes when you make a leap, there are some trade-offs at the beginning. So voluntary simplicity, reframing, what do I need? Do I need all of these things? Can really help.
Yeah, I never will forget Adam Grant's story about how his wife does their investing, because he met the guys from Warby Parker when they were just getting started, and because they still had their day jobs, he was like, they're not really committed. I'm not going to invest in this. Warby Parker.
I know.
Warby Parker.
Warby Parker. They're our sister B Corp.
Yeah. Okay, so are you ready for the next question?
Let's do it.
Hey, Work Wisdom, can you explain the steps to bridge a divide between a management focused on the fiscal bottom line and the rest of the staff who feel exploited? How can this be turned around?
Yeah, no, we've actually experienced this many times in our work in culture shaping. So first, and I sound like a little bit of a broken record, you have to let the negative come up, so we have to have some mechanism so that we have authentic communication and psychological safety, so that this can become, so everyone can become aware.
Right.
So the management needs to understand how the staff are feeling, and the staff needs to understand why the management is behaving the way they are. Sometimes that illumination will build understanding. So that might help the two start coming together. I think having really honest conversations about the motivations on both sides and the perceptions on both sides is really important. It may be really helpful to understand what is the culture of this organization. So increasingly, and quite honestly, maybe 4 times during the last 8 months, we've worked with organizations that have a misunderstanding about what their culture is. So it may be that the staff feel that it's more of a family culture, and the leadership feel it's more of a hard-driving market culture that is externally focused on customers. And so there's this push-pull because there's misunderstanding about the culture. So in many cases, what we do is we work with organizations to help them understand what kind of culture are we? And then we own it, and then we live into it. So maybe we are this hard-driving, results-oriented culture where you're going to work harder than you've worked in your whole life, a la Miranda Priestley from Devil Wears Prada.
Right.
I wish I could remember what Anne Hathaway's name was.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Right through Instagram. Tell us what her name was in that movie. Andy. Yeah, and Andy learned quite a lot from Miranda Priestley in Devil Wears Prada. So anyhow, that was a very long-winded answer to this person's question. Understanding is part of it. Conversation is part of it. Ultimately, I think that getting to a place of essentialism in the business model is the answer. So really understanding, using math, understanding what is our highest ROI product or products, and then let's focus our energy on those, whether it's ROI in terms of profitability or ROI in terms of impact and world changing. Let's focus on what's moving the needle the most. So I think that goes a long way in making the staff feel less frenzied so that they are directing their energy in the most, with the most agency and efficacy. And so that in the long run is probably the best answer. Essentialism in the business model. Figure out where you're moving the needle and put more energy in that and less in the frenzy where we're all splashing around making the water wetter. We don't want to do that.
All right, one more question.
Okay.
Hey, Work Wisdom, how do you gauge whether a company or organization is equitable or not?
Wow, you're going to have better answers than me on this one. I might throw this one back to you. What would you say? So if you walk into a company, as we sometimes do, and you're scanning, what are the first things you're scanning for?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing that comes to mind for a lot of people is the diversity within the organization or the company. Is there diversity? And then sort of the next level up is how is the diversity in the leadership? I think policy is a really good thing to look at. There's many ways to embed equity into the culture. So there's a lot of different things you can look at, but those would be my first kind of what I would check first.
Yeah, I always loved it when Jamie Arroyo, who used to work at Work Wisdom, used to say, you got to look at who's in the small rooms. Who are the people who are making the big decisions? Who are the power people in the organization? Look at those folks. How equitable are the people in that room. I think that's very telling, more so than the baseline data on what's our percentages around race or orientation or ability. So I actually think there are some other things that I'm curious about. Are people comfortable having uncomfortable conversations? So are they owning it? I mean, everybody's got work to do. Everyone's evolving in this space. And so are they looking at how do we de-bias all of our structures, all of our systems? And so, are they thinking about how can we be anti-racist? How can we be anti-homophobic? And what are they doing around their hiring, around their mentoring, all kinds of leadership development. I really think recruiting is important too.
Yeah.
So not hiring from within, it's controversial, but it's actually how we can create a more equitable organization.
Yeah, B Lab, it's really interesting because one of the founders of B Lab, they're so focused on diversity and equity and inclusion and having, sustainable a sustainable organization. And what one of the founders talked about was that very thing that you mentioned, which is, are we comfortable having these conversations? And what the feedback was from the staff is no. The people of color in the organization didn't feel like their voice was being heard. And there was some self-checking about the lack of diversity, especially in leadership. And so they've made a really concerted effort to bring more women of color specifically into leadership positions. So it was directed. But I think the vulnerability of recognizing, we have a problem here is a big way to answer this question. Are we willing to, see that we're making a mistake or that we're wrong and being okay with that and taking steps to mitigate it?
Yeah, it takes a lot of humility.
Yeah. How often are we going to do this, Kedron?
I have no idea. Whenever Michael tells us to.
Yeah.
Yeah, we really can't podcast probably for a few more months, so it's okay with me. If you like this, let us know, and we'll just keep doing this. So keep DMing us. Is that a verb? DMing us?
Yeah, it is now.
With whatever your burning questions are around culture, leadership, self-awareness, self-knowledge, Enneagram, EQ, TKI, equity, any of the things that we know about, and we're happy to do this every couple of weeks.
Yeah, I can wear my slippers.
Yay! Okay, well, thanks for hanging out with us in the living room.
All right, yeah, bye everybody.
Bye.